Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the late night horror movie review. I hope you're all doing well. It is about 10 o'clock at night and it's still there's still daylight coming through. But I've been catching up with some movies, and tonight we're reviewing Second Sight's 4K version of The Babadook. Now, this is an Australian film. Not many horror films come out of Australia. Well, there are, but none that sort of like jump to mind as being really amazing. I mean, Wolf Creek is pretty cool, but we're going to talk about Babadook tonight, which is it's a story sort of based on insomnia and sort of loneliness and single parenthood, I suppose, and the loss of a sort of like a husband. So the main woman at the story, she's lost her husband and she's trying to cope with her son. And I think her son has been extremely traumatized by this, because I think what happened was she went into labour, and they were rushing to hospital. There must have been an accident and the father died, and the mother went on to the hospital and gave birth to the son. But he seems a little bit the lad seems a little bit, has a few sort of learning difficulties almost, because he has really sort of like temper tantrums and sort of like very, very demanding and very, very clingy to his mother. And his mother's very, very worn out. She's worn out the whole film. She's absolutely exhausted because she devotes herself to the lad all the time and gives him all of her time, and she defends him and his behaviour to others. She's got a sister who's got a daughter, and that they don't like being around the boy, and the sister even said that even you don't like being around the boy. He needs help, he needs special sort of help. But she's in denial of all this, and she's very, very close to him, and she spends most evenings reading stories to him. And one night she reads him the storybook The Babadook, which is like almost like a horror story. And I don't know how it's managed to get in there. It's not really sort of explained how it's got into her house. Anyway, they start reading this story, which is like a pop-up book about this Babadook, which is like a sort of creature that sort of like almost like a monster under the bed kind of thing, that sort of comes and gets you and sort of eats you and all this sort of thing. Anyway, the boy is absolutely obsessed with it, that this monster is going to get him. So every night they have to look under the bed, they have to look in the closet, and all this sort of stuff. And the mother's at wit's end, doesn't know what to do. And the story sort of like goes on building on their sort of relationship and how it struggles. You can see that the mother really sort of resents the child a lot of the time because of his demanding ways. And obviously she's still in a state of grieving, although it's been a few years. She's still in a state of grieving because I don't think she's actually had the chance to do so, because this child is very, very demanding. Anyway, as the story sort of progresses, they even go to her sister's daughter's birthday party, and the little lad is so out of sync with all the other children, and he keeps talking to them more about this Babadook that's going to get everyone, it's going to kill their parents and all this. And he has an argument with the young girl, and he sort of pushes her out of her tree house and all this kind of thing. And so she falls out with her sister, and now sort of isolates them even more, because she calls up her sister asking for some sort of like help, really. But the sister doesn't want to know. She goes, I've had enough. I don't want to hear about you or the lad Sam at all. And she has all these sort of social services coming in, trying to sort of like, I suppose, support and help her out, because she's taken the kid out of school because the kid's been building weapons at school to kill this Babadook. And he's also been winding all the kids up at school about this Babadook. So she ends up taking the boy out of school and keeping him at home. And so she's also, which distracts her from her job. She works as like in a mental health sort of environment, which isn't probably the best place for her to work, to be honest, with her sort of state of mind. Um, because it's not fair on the patients and herself to be in there in that sort of state of mind. So all these sort of things build up and build up with her, and then she goes to see the doctor with the lad to get him some sort of help and some sort of tranquilizers to help him sleep, because neither of them have slept for weeks. And eventually he starts sleeping, but then she starts visualizing and starts seeing the Babadook herself. And he's like a sort of dark, shadowy figure with like long sort of pointed fingers and a top hat and big teeth and eyes. It's very, it looks very sort of like an old sort of silent movie kind of villain. Um, and she sort of sees him uh, in some sort of circumstances. And we get quite a few creepiness and quite a few jump scares throughout the film. And there's some sort of noises, and noises he makes is quite creepy. So she started to visualize all this, and the lad's still being very, very demanding. And it's almost like she gets sort of possessed a little bit by the Babadook. So she sort of starts becoming it and starts being really sort of physical towards the boy. And the boy's terrified of his mother in the end. And it's like a battle between them two. It's almost like she's come possessed with this Babadook. But I'm not going to tell you how the sort of story pans out, because you need to watch it. But it's a very intense viewing. It really, really is. It's a very um, immersive viewing as well. You really get sort of attached to the mother. Actually, I feel sorry for the mother more than the son. The son's a little bit annoying, to be honest, but because he's just constantly at it, and she can't get a break. And I think that's all she needs is a sort of break, really. And this sort of film sort of plays with your mind in the sense of like, this is a woman who's got insomnia. She cannot sleep. She's at her wit's end. She's lonely. She's scared, and she's heartbroken. And she's got a son who she probably resents a little bit, because obviously the father died in the crash as she was going to give birth, and the son is very, very demanding, and he's very, very awkward, but he's very, very sweet at the same time, because all this awkwardness and demandingness all sort of comes from his innocence, and he's sort of like different from every other child. He really is. Um, and he really thinks this Babadook is after his mother, and he wants to protect her. So he sort of builds all these sort of weapons to try and help her. So all this kind of weird and wonderful things are going on. So what do I think of the Babadook? It's an amazing film. It's really, really cool. It's probably my favourite Australian horror movie. It's absolutely fantastic. It's just really, really well crafted movie, and it demands reviews to actually really enjoy it. Um, the pluses of this edition: the 4K transfer is stellar, as you can see by the clips that I've put up. It's sharp, it's wonderful, it's beautifully shot. It's amazing. The acting's really, really cool. The kid's great because he's annoying, and he really he smashes that role. And the mother, she's brilliant, and she's quite sweet, but very, very at her wit's end. And the story sort of really pulls on that to a state where she becomes a little bit mad. And it's got some other great other cast members, like the next door neighbour, the old lady living next door. She's very sweet. It's a very well structured film, um, and it is very, very scary and jumpy, with lots of jump scares. Negatives, not really any, apart from there is no real sort of gore to talk about in the film. It's not a gory horror. It's a more of a suspenseful jump scare horror. So I can't really say that takes it away from the film, because it doesn't. I'm going to score The Babadook an essential watch and give it a 10 out of 10. It is that good a film, guys. It's an amazing movie. It's not like any other sort of film. Of course, there's been loads of sort of films about children's storybooks and monsters under the bed, but this one captures it so perfectly, and it's so well acted and well played. It's just a really great film. I absolutely loved it from start to finish. I really enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the cinematography. I enjoyed the script. I enjoyed the storyline. I enjoyed the Babadook. He was really cool. Really, really good. 10 out of 10, The Babadook. Have any of you guys seen it? If you have, let me know down below what you thought of it. I think it's quite an underrated film, because I think it's one of those sort of films that you can just pass by. A little bit like Smile that came out last year. It's one of those sort of films that you can sort of really just sort of pass by. But if you really take your time and get to grip with the film, see the layers that are in it, it's an incredible movie. Absolutely incredible. It's a really, really clever film. Really good. Guys, till my next video, please check out some horror channels for me. Check out Horror Hands, The Horror Geek, Man v Film, RS Designs, Pizzawell, I Am the Ice Lord, Sarah of Horror, Cat Watches Horror Movies, Grumpy Andrew's Haunted House. And a massive, massive shout out to my lad, Lemon Lord. I'm hoping to see in a few weeks' time. Until next time, look after yourselves, don't have nightmares, and I really hope I'll see you all soon.